Hello everyone, a very good morning to you. This is Rachel live from Kalkine Studios and you're watching The Early Trades, a show where we share with you a glimpse of the Australian share market opening hours along with the global and domestic drivers triggering market momentum. We'll take a look at prominent newsmakers grabbing the headlines during the early trading hours, as well as movements seen in crude oil, gold and metal indices. Firstly, the Australian share market opened lower in early trade this morning, tracking weak cues from US shares that declined following the latest data showing a sharp slowdown in jobs growth last month. The recent announcement by the US Federal Bank on tapering its bond buying program was another factor that appeared to influence the ASX this morning. Bottom performing stocks in the index so far are Chalice Mining and the Inghams Group. On Wednesday, the Australian share market closed 0.4% higher to 7,503.2 points. The Dow Jones fell 0.9%, the S&P 500 dropped 0.45%, and the Nasdaq edged 0.1% higher. In July, US private payrolls reported a much lesser increase than expected, probably due to a shortage of workers and raw materials. According to the ADP National Employment Report released yesterday, employers added 330,000 jobs in the previous month. The US non-manufacturing activity index touched an all-time high of 64.1 last month, compared to 60.1 in June. That's according to the Institute for Supply Management. Even though robust company earnings eased concerns over the coronavirus Delta variant, the market weighed on inflationary pressures. There's a growing belief in the US that the Federal Reserve may soon lower support for the economy. Moving on to our next segment of the show now, let us look quickly at the highlights of prominent ASX stocks under the spotlight so far today. Centuria Capital's profit has risen by a massive 711.3%. That's in financial year 2021. As well, their revenue soared 402.8% over the previous year. Funds from operations rose 44% in the same period. Westpac has decided to review its relationship with Afterpay. This is after Jack Dorsey's Square offered to buy the company. Now, Square hopes to compete with Australian banks in the lending and payment space. Moving on, furniture company Nick Scali has doubled its profit in financial year 2021, clocking a 100% increase in the net profit after tax, comfortably beating their guidance. Sales revenue also surged 42.1%. Resolute Mining has entered into an agreement with Asante Gold Corporation to sell its Bibiani gold mine in Guyana for $90 million, out of which $30 million deposit has already been received by the company. Let us take a short break now, but stay tuned to Kalkine TV.
Tune in to get the latest information.
Whether it's about market movements or the currency graph,
Sectoral coverage or industry news.
we cover it all on our news segments.
Be on top of the latest news
With Kalkine TV.
Welcome back. This is Rachel, your host live from Kalkine Studios, and you're watching The Early Trades. Looking at the bond market now, the US Treasury yields moved slightly higher despite disappointing payroll data. That says the US Fed Vice Chair Richard Clarida's comments triggered a rebound in US Treasury yields. The 10-year notes last rose 1 on 32 counts in price to a yield of 1.17%. The dollar, however, recorded a quick recovery from the earlier fall following weak payroll data. The dollar index fell by 0.2% to 92.24 before turning back up in the afternoon trade. Let us now look over to the crude oil space. The price for crude oil continued to fall for the third straight day. That's following a surprise build-up in US inventories, also weak economic data and concerns over the fast-spreading coronavirus Delta variant. While crude fell 3.73%, Brent was down 3.11%. Energy stocks such as Woodside Petroleum opened lower amid Santos shares, and they too edged lower in early trade this morning. Moving on to gold prices, concerns over the Fed potentially easing asset purchases were offset by strong demand for gold. Spot gold added 0.1%. The gold futures, though, declined 0.03%. Gold miners, including Newcrest Mining and Northern Star Resources, saw their shares trade lower this morning. Into the metal space, following the latest concerns over the coronavirus outbreak in China, this has triggered supply concerns for steel-making ingredients. Chinese coking coal and coke futures ended higher. Benchmark iron ore futures on the Dalian Commodity Exchange are edging up 0.5%. On the other hand, copper prices eased. That's as the greenback strengthened. Benchmark copper on the London Metal Exchange fell 0.9%. That's all from me for now, but stay tuned to Kalkine TV as we have many more shows lined up for you, sharing live updates across the economy, markets and sectors. I'm Rachel, signing off for now.